Forget the London mayoral election. Ignore the Euro referendum. The only vote that matters is your Spurs player of the season. And this is your e-Spurs podcast, Extra Time. Hi guys, welcome to Extra Time, your second e-Spurs podcast of the week. On Extra Time, of course, each and every week we discuss the big talking point, which this week was who gets your vote for Spurs player of the season. What a topic we've got for you tonight, guys, and some great responses as always sent in by you guys on social media, on Twitter and Facebook, which we'll be reading back in just a moment. I'm joined tonight by Jason, by Ian and by Ricky, who'll be guiding us through the next 20 minutes or so, talking about that topic of who gets our vote of player of the season. Jay's first up on this one. Such a wide range of players to select from on this one, Jay. The list is endless this season.
But that's the great thing about this season. You know, we've had previous seasons where Hugo, for instance, 2 years ago, everyone just instantly said Hugo because the season was so poor and disappointing. And even last year, Harry Kane was the obvious choice for everyone. But there's a case for saying it could be Toby, it could be Eric Dyer, it could be Dembele, it could be Kane. There's so many choices this year, and that's the best thing about the season.
Certainly is, and I mean, of course, it goes without saying that when the team are playing at such a level that give them second place in the league as we are at the moment, that there's going to be a big selection of players up for player of the season. But can you remember a season where there's been such a wide range or, you know, such a huge selection of candidates for our player of the season?
Well, I suppose that the only other one of recent years would be going back to when we got back into the Champions League.
Yeah.
It was that 2010 when it could have been a number of players that particular season. But no, it's just the perfect season, isn't it? It is so nice to be able to have to think about who you're making as your player of the season, because we just haven't had that for a long, long time.
No, it's lovely to see. And we were talking before the podcast about who gets our vote. And I mean, we sort of reeled off 4 or 5 names then. You could maybe add another 2 or 3 into the mix. You know, it's been that kind of season. And your responses, guys, were really interesting this week. Let's first up go to Ian. What have you got on the social media, Ian?
Okay, I've got Neil Garnett at Neil Garnett 48. And he says, Lloris, worth 20 plus points a season. We've got our old friend Guy Flitton at Guy Flitton. As many have said, Toby, rock solid presence who inspires confidence throughout team and raises game of those around him. We then go on to Patrick at S14Gal. He said Dembele, superb season, driving force. We miss him when he is out. Good point. And then we've got Derp Alderweireld at Wannabe Harvey. Toby brings the best change in defence. Bolstering our defence gave the squad the confidence to play well in the league. And finally, we've got Rock City Spurs at Rock City Spurs. Bentaleb's early season injury allowed Poch to find best midfield combination early in the season. So there's a good range of candidates there for us to consider.
It certainly is. And I mean, a couple of points to pick up on from that, Ian. Of course, the Bentaleb comment really rung out to us just a moment ago when we were reading through them. It's easy to forget, isn't it? You know, the impact that Bentaleb had last season. He then obviously picked up the injury that he's had this season. And you do think, don't you, maybe, possibly, if he'd still been fit, would things have been slightly different? So there's that to take into account. And also there's a couple of other candidates there. There's Lloris that has been mentioned. There's also Dembele there. So what I really want to ask is, what criteria do you use when selecting a player of the season?
I think for me, it's the player over the 38 games that has had the biggest impact to not just the success of the team, but has also changed the team the most. And that's what's prompted me to make the decision I did.
And we'll come to that actually in just a moment. I'll get everybody's thoughts at the end of the end of the podcast. Rick, with the selection that we've got this year, Ian's already mentioned that the criteria, in his opinion, should be based on the player that's had the biggest impact. There are so many of those that could be judged to have had a huge impact on Spurs this season. Even, let's talk about the likes of Eric Lamela. A lot of people will argue that because his improvement has been so drastic this season, even he could be a candidate on those grounds for Player of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, like you say there, it's a testament really to this squad, to this team. Normally when you find in a team that are going for the title, or dare I say win a title, in that team there are normally 8 to 9 players that you would suggest are good enough to win a Player of the Season. And that's what you're finding with Spurs. And I know I want to keep going on about Leicester, but with Leicester there is 3 to 4 individuals there that have single-handedly dragged them to top and are grinding out the results on a regular basis. Whereas with Spurs, and what is becoming more apparent now, and to which the pundits are now seeing, is that it's not just individuals with Spurs, it is a team that are getting us over the line.
Yeah.
Like I said in the main pod, we are dismantling teams. We are not nicking 1-0s. We are beating teams across the turf. And again, this is testament to the fact that we're not talking about 1 or 2 players here. We are talking about 8, 9, 10 players. And that's why in this debate you are seeing such a variety and so many different players coming up, because it's impossible to just suggest 1 or 2 players. Like you said there, Andy, the likes of Lamela, who arguably there was question marks in the summer that we may let him go.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that being labelled now? The guy he's for me one of the first names on the team sheet, as is the rock solid centre back pairing of Alderweireld and Vertonghen. Kevin Wimmer, it's going to be forgetting Kevin Wimmer came in at a point in the season where we needed someone to come in and hit the ground running. And by God, did he do that. And how we performed in the absence of Vertonghen shouldn't be forgotten. And again, we look through Dele Alli this season. What a phenomenal season he's had. 10 goals already, more than Jack Wilshere's had in his whole career at Arsenal. There is so many players. Eric Dyer, I don't want to keep that, but Eric Dyer, Hugo Lloris, you're seeing it. These names are coming up now. There's just such a variety. And who can suggest that any of them, whoever wins it, shouldn't deserve to win it? But the thing is that's coming apparent is it could be any of them. And that shows you where we're at now. And the team, what Potter's built, it's phenomenal.
It is. And I think for Spurs fans also, because we have for so long waited for, and use that word that you used there, Rick, the team. As Spurs fans in the past, we've had great players, haven't we? We've had the Klinsmans, we've had the Greaves, the Hoddles, the Waddles, the Ardiles, but not all...
at the same time.
Exactly. And not all in a team that have bonded in the way that this team has bonded. And it's not necessarily having the best players. It's about having the best cohesive unit, the best unit that works together. And that's exactly what we find. Because I think if you look at players in isolation, players like Kyle Walker, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, although he's been a regular in the side, if Kyle Walker had been sold in the last 2 or 3 years before this season, probably wouldn't have been too many Spurs fans shed a tear over that. Although
I agree, and Danny Rose, Andy, same with Danny Rose. I remember the day when Danny Rose, when he was announced that he was signing a 5-year deal, Poch's first deal through the door was to give Danny Rose a 5-year contract, and the uproar on social media.
Yep.
What's he doing? Can't believe it. How has Danny Rose got 5 more years? Now you're looking around thinking, is there a better left back in the Premier League?
Absolutely.
I don't think so, and it's a guarantee for me that Walker and Rose, both of them should be starting in the Euros, 100%. Both our left back and right back should be starting in the Euros. And, that is testament to what Potter's done to these players, the improvement. Like we said earlier, he is a coach and he has coached these players so well. And you can see the improvement in both Walker and Rose. And it's clear, you see Poch was a defender. It's clear that he's, with both of them, studied the game with both of them, told them what they need to do, and they've worked on it, and they're both now 2 top-class fullbacks. And like we've said, we're blessed that we've got them in our side. Blessed.
Absolutely. What have you got for us, mate, on the social media?
Okay, so I've got Sandeep Kumar at Little Aristotle, who says Dembele, because he's our engine between our defence and attack. Our flow seems to disappear without him. We've lost 3 games without him. Musa is showing us why he's the most important player in our system. That being said, all are playing well as of now. I've got Kev Green at Kev_G1, who says Toby, the rock at the back. Consistent whole season goals and assists, and proof being no difference partnering Jan or Wimmer. I've got Del Boy Hotspur at How C Tad, who says Dembele is a monster. Love watching him play. And finally, I've got Tints at Tinsel Cell, who says Alderweireld, a defensive alchemist, a Churchillian leader who hasn't missed a beat all season. Echo that.
Absolutely, really well said, and certainly I think captain material, Alderweireld. I think in listening to him speak last week, I haven't heard too many interviews from him, but in listening to him speak, certainly came across as captain material. Almost in the way that Ledley King was captain material. He's very calmly spoken, but you can imagine him out there on the pitch, willing to take the game by the scruff of the neck and call players together, get them playing out on the pitch, be the manager out on the pitch, if you like. And really impressed with that, really impressed. And Jace, just listening to the feedback and the comments there that are coming from social media, of course, Toby is getting a lot of the mentions, but Dembele is certainly giving him a run for his money.
Well, it's been brilliant having the Moussa Dembele that we thought we bought 4 years ago, and the sad part is that we've waited 4 years until the 4th season to really understand just how good a footballer he is.
Yeah,
can remember so many people over those past 3 seasons saying, yeah, he's a really good player, but nothing really happens from him, and he doesn't bring goals and he doesn't bring assists and he slows everything down. But finally we found the way to get the Moussa Dembele that we thought we bought, and at the time it was Manchester United were after him, weren't they? And he was described as this monster player. And interesting to see in the build-up to the Stoke game how Mark Hughes said he was called the doctor at Fulham, because you just gave him the ball and everything got better as soon as you gave him the ball. And Mark Hughes certainly full of praise for him, and he has been a towering presence for us all season.
Do you think, Jay, we've now also found his best position?
I think so. It's not just the position we've got for him, it's the balance of the team around him, isn't it? That's the big thing, the improvement in so many of the players. As we keep saying, it's that team ethic this year. Everyone being given a role in the team to do. Everybody trusting the person alongside him to do their job. So they've purely got to concentrate on the one job they're given to do in a game. And I think that's the thing that stands out for me more than anything this year.
Certainly does. Lovely to see. What have you got on the social media?
I've got from the Hotspur Insider, at Hotspur Insider, probably Dembele for me, a monster tackler and quality dribbler. Can get us out of a hole and create something out of nothing. We've got Daniel Robert Crump at Crumpet 1987. Toby, because he's actually a class defender and come in and settle the back line. Just look at our goal difference. We got Dev at Devo Kirksey. Eric Dyer for me, playing as a centre-back and holding central defensive midfield player and central midfielder and scoring big goals. The man is a wall with legs. And Kim Edwards at Kim Edwards 48, Toby. We have a huge goal difference. He has made all the difference to our defence. Immense player, bargain of the season.
Yeah, really, I love that comment there, a wall with legs. What a great way to describe Eric Dyer. And do you know what impresses me about Eric Dyer, Jay, is that he goes about his work so quietly, doesn't he? He's almost at times, he goes unnoticed in games. You hardly hear him mentioned. But after a game, looking at the stats, he's one of the most efficient in any game. Yeah,
he's been a revelation. And, so many people were critical at the start of the season, weren't they, of why are we playing with Eric Dyer in midfield? So, again, that one's down to Poch. And probably he only gets noticed in a game when Dele Alli has an incident and he stands in front of Dele Alli as the protective wall in front of Dele Alli. But, no, it's an excellent season. But I'm surprised that the name that didn't come up there is Harry, because lots of people mentioned the goal difference. And that's, Harry Kane has 24 league goals this season.
Yeah.
And he, for me, he'd be the one I'd go for because, the demands on Harry at the start of the season were huge. Is he a one-season wonder? Can he do it again? We've only got one striker. He hasn't scored in those first 7 games. And to just come as he has done, I think he's a real leader on the pitch. I think he's a leader off it. He's a credit to Tottenham Hotspur. He's a credit to himself. Everything he does has an element of a really classy guy. And the positive impact he gives Tottenham Hotspur is huge. And to come up with a season that he has, he's the leading goal scorer in the league now. He's back on the Player of the Year list. I think, for me, as outstanding as Toby and everyone's been, I think Harry's just gone that inch beyond everyone else for everything that he represents about Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, absolutely. He's invaluable, isn't he? Absolutely invaluable. And Rick, I'm going to put you on the spot now, mate. Harry Kane or Toby Alderweireld, who would be the bigger loss for Spurs?
Oh, that is a tough question. God, that's like asking if you want to be strangled, if you want to be drowned. That is a really, really tough one. I don't want to sit on the fence, but that is such a tough question, purely because Alderweireld has come into Spurs, and as you've seen, it's no coincidence for me that our defensive record this season is the best in the league. The same as I mentioned in the main pod, where he went to Southampton and their defence was the best in the league when he was there. Kane, I mean, where would we be without his goals? Okay, I have to be honest and say, hand on my heart, I would be devastated to lose Harry Kane. I would be devastated to lose Harry Kane. But then I would say I'll be devastated to lose Toby. This is torture. This really is torture.
Well, I'll come to you first, Rick, on that one. No pressure, you know. It's I guess you could maybe look at it, Ian, in that if we're to lose Alderweireld, you could bring Wimmer in. If we lose Harry, you're then left a little bit short, maybe.
I'm so glad you didn't ask me that question. Yeah, I agree with Rick. I think that we haven't got a replacement for Harry Kane, and I think we'd struggle to go out and we'd have to spend big money to get somebody else in with his quality.
Yeah. So
much as I love Alderweireld, I think we could slot Wimmer in alongside Jan or alongside another defensive player, but we've got no replacement for Harry, so I'd go with Harry.
And coming in, Jay, who'd be the bigger loss, Harry or Toby?
It's an easy one for me. Kane, without a doubt, would be the bigger loss.
Yeah.
I think he represents so much, as we talked earlier, the impact that he has in the way that Gerrard had for Liverpool and John Terry has for Chelsea. It's that he's a Tottenham boy through and through, and I think that's a huge thing that goes in his favour. You know, I feel that Toby's been brilliant, but there must be another central defender out there in the world that we could get to do not necessarily the same job, but a job along the same lines, if you see what I mean. But with Kane, you know, it's not just what he brings on the pitch, it is the whole impact that he has on the club. You talked earlier about how he sorted Adebayor out and things like that. It's a huge thing, I think, with Kane. And to only have gone the whole season with one striker, how he's had to manage his game to make sure he's not being burnt out and things like that. I think he's shown a maturity and intelligence in his game this year that was way beyond the years that he has. I think he's had a fantastic season.
Long may it last. I've just realised, lads, I've just ruined a potential talking point there for another week, maybe. Been a great subject, wouldn't it? Toby or Kane. And when I say who'd be the bigger loss, I should just point out I'm talking about injury, not transfer, of course, because God forbid that should ever happen to either of them. But yeah, it's a really good debate. And another one, you guys out there listening might want to get in touch with us on that one and let us know what you think at @e_Spurs or e-Spurs page on Facebook. Okay, so to round off the podcast tonight, let's just go across the board. Jay, I think we know what you think. You're going for Harry, mate?
Yep, Kane, all day long.
So one vote for Harry from Jay. Rick?
I'm going to go for Toby Alderweireld. I think, like I say, stats speak for themselves. Best goal difference in the league. Best defence in the league for me this season. He's been absolutely amazing, but can't look past Harry Kane. I say just a word on Harry Kane for me. A lot of people said he was going to be a one-season wonder. Well, he's blown that out of the water. He's been absolutely amazing. I just think if it wasn't for how good Toby has been, my vote would be going to Kane.
And he's had that much of an impact. Absolutely brilliant. So, Ian, I'm afraid the decision is yours. Are we going to have a split decision, or are you going to make it a majority for either Toby or Harry, or are you going to go for somebody else?
Well, I'm going to make it a majority vote. For me, it's got to be Toby. I just think that his presence in our back 4-5 has been absolutely phenomenal. You know, he's weighed in with goals. He's a very, very clean and efficient player. You know, to go that length of time without conceding a foul, and you're a centre back, unreal. Although, you know, going back to what Jason was saying, he makes a very compelling point for Harry Kane, and I would have gone for Kane myself. I just think that our biggest problem over the last few years has been in the defence department, and I don't think we've had any problem with scoring goals. It's preventing them that we've had the problem, and I think Toby's been a key and integral part of that renaissance under Poch.
You know, future captain material, as I said. Absolutely brilliant. What a time to be a Spurs fan, and still 4 games to go. I don't know how we're going to get through it quite, but there you have it. The e-Spurs podcast says your player of the season is Toby Alderweireld, with Harry Kane coming a close second, as voted for by Jay. So let us know what you guys think. The debate's not over. You can always get in touch with us on Twitter and Facebook, as I mentioned there. We'll be back next week after the West Brom game. You can catch your e-Spurs podcast regular on Tuesday night. And, of course, we'll be back for another extra time on Friday night next week. Slightly different dates because of the Monday night game each week now for the next couple of weeks. So don't forget to tune in for those ones. And, of course, next week, as every week, there's another e-Spurs talking point for you guys to get involved in. For next week, Ian, there's a great subject for everybody to get their teeth into.
OK, I think we've all been extremely impressed with our goal difference. And that's been in part caused by Harry Kane's goals and the defensive unit that we've got in the club, led by Toby Alderweireld. So what has been the biggest influence to that? Is it Harry or is it Toby and the defence?
So let us know what you think. I guess you could even have a think about, will it your choice of player of the season have an impact on that? If you voted Harry, you might think the goals are more important. If you voted Toby, you might think otherwise. So a really good subject, guys, for you to get your teeth into for next week. What has had the biggest impact on our impressive goal difference? Is it Toby and his defending, or is it Harry and his goal? Both huge assets, of course, but well worth a think. And get in touch with us on Facebook and Twitter and get involved in the talking point every week. That's all for this week, guys. My thanks to Jason, to Ricky, and we'll be back after the West Brom game next week. Let's hope another 3 points and another step towards that Champions League, and maybe, just maybe, even greater. Have a great week, guys, and as always, come on you Spurs.